And so intention is when we have a plan. There's something that we want to do, right? We set our intention to do something. At least one person was in the study with us tonight. We heard the word intention many times, right? I'm setting our intention. Our intention is to do this. Our intention is to do that. But attention is a completely different thing, right? There's a noun and there's a verb. So when attention is a noun, it's something that we do. It's just like it's the capacity to take notice. It's the mental capacity to take into consideration someone or something, right? Like it's the capacity to pay attention, right? And when it's a verb, it's something that we do. It's an action that we take. It's the actual action of taking special care of something or someone, right? So one is what we want to do, and then attention is what we actually do. So neither one is not better than the other, but we're just going to talk about how they go together. And so intentions are good. How many times have you heard someone say, well, my intentions were good? You know, intentions are good. There's nothing wrong with intention. There's benefits, there's challenges. You know, some of the benefits is when we think about when we have intentions about who or what we want to do inside of ourselves, right? Some of the internal benefits, it helps us define, like what are the internal attributes that we want to develop? What's my intention with myself? Right? What are my intentions for how I want to develop myself as a person? If we don't have intentions, it's very difficult to focus. Juan did a lecture a few weeks back about planning, having a plan. And if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail, right? So if you haven't set any intentions about what we want to do inside, then it will be more difficult. We're all here because we set an intention to be here, right? All of us set an intention to be here tonight. And I would like to think that we're all here because we want to grow. I don't think anybody showed up tonight, you know, in bad weather because we wanted to stay the same, right? We had an intention we want to transform. When we have intentions about what we want to actually do, those are like the external things. This is good, right? There's things that we want to do. It can help keep us focused. However, here's where intentions can be a challenge. You see, because our intentions don't always equal our impact. When we say, oh, my intentions were good, you know, we set out to do something good for someone or something, and it doesn't come out right because we make mistakes. We're all figuring this out. So what do we usually say? Well, my intentions were good, and then we hope that erases the mistake. First of all, there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. Second of all, saying our intentions were good doesn't clean the mistake, right? You all know that I work in racial justice and equity. I try to help people in my organization be more sensitive to racial dynamics. And there are a lot of racialized things that are said. And when they're named, people are like, oh, but that wasn't my intent. It's like, we understand that. We're just asking you to think about that next time and do it differently. But that wasn't my intent. I'm not a racist. We understand that. We're asking you to think about this and do it differently next time. But I'm not a racist. And it's you know, I'm kind of dramatizing that, but how many times have we done this, right? Maybe it's not racial, but you know, we make a mistake, we get called out, and then we say, but my intentions were good, and we get stuck there. This is the challenge of intents. One of the challenges, we have to be careful. And you know, I tried, is it like,
yeah, there is something
okay.
How to remove the...
Sure, no worries. So,
I can hear a little bit.
Okay, so the thing about this intent versus impact, I try to help people understand it by using an analogy. Let's say that me and Cynthia are sitting in a room and she's sitting in front of the window, and I throw a box of paper out of the window because the recycling bin is outside. I'm recycling this box of paper, but it hits her arm. And it hits her arm, and it it causes a damage to the arm. It cuts the arm. And she says, you hurt my arm. My arm is bleeding. And I say, oh, but I was recycling. And she says, no, but my arm is bleeding. And I say, no, but I could have thrown the paper in the garbage. I'm recycling. And she says, but my arm is bleeding. And I say, do you realize I could have thrown this in the garbage? I know that you're conscious of the planet, Cynthia. Why are you, I was recycling. I could have thrown it in the garbage.
Whoa.
They left me deaf.
They had good intention. Yes. They had
wow.
good intention. Yes,
It's all good.
Thank God I took my hearing thing off, otherwise I would have been screaming.
Yes. Even though the intentions were good, it doesn't lessen the impact of what just happened to all of our ears. Perfect lesson. But because the intentions are good, we hold it with grace. We can still offer grace because the intentions are good. All the grace. So I have two opportunities now. As Cynthia is saying, my arm is hurt. I can continue to remind her about my good intentions, but it's not going to stop her arm from bleeding. It's not going to make it stop hurting. I had two choices there. I could make sure she knows I'm not a bad person because I accidentally hurt her arm. It sounds silly when we say that, but think about how often we do this, right? We try to make these excuses. And instead of telling her about recycling, nobody cares about that. Her arm is bleeding. My thing is, do you need a doctor? Do you need a Band-Aid? Do you need, do we need ice? Right? I'm so sorry I hurt your arm. That was a mistake. The fact that my intentions were good is irrelevant at that moment. What is relevant is let me take care of the harm that I caused. And then later I can say, oh, I was recycling. But maybe that doesn't even matter. If we've harmed someone, we just want to fix it, right? So that's the challenge where we have to be careful. So if we catch ourselves saying, my intentions were good, let's also make sure that we're hearing. By the time we say that, it means someone has told us we've made a mistake. And that's our opportunity to say my two favorite words. Not thank you. It's what else? Someone's giving you some feedback that requires you to say my intentions were good. That means you're being told about something that could use some polishing. The best answer is thank you, what else? What else? What else? And then you might actually get to the actual thing, right? You might actually get to the thing. So that's an opportunity to be receptive there. So intentions are good, always. We just have to keep in mind some of the challenges there. So it's so interesting that this weather we're having is hitting the Gulf Coast of Florida. When I first lived in Florida in 2005, I lived in the Tampa Bay area. And right after I moved there in August, there was a hurricane that hit that area. So this is actually history, yeah, right, the recap. And I didn't have to evacuate because it was in a it was not in a coastal area. And so I spent 2 days, and we didn't lose power, so we spent 2 days watching Wayne Dyer's Power of Intention, Dr. Wayne Dyer. Has anyone ever seen this PBS series or read the book? Yeah, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Dr. Wayne Dyer is a spiritist. He didn't ever say that, but he was a spiritist. He most definitely was. And it's a book that's a PBS special. You can, I think, still view it for free on PBS. And so he had this very interesting perspective on intention. He actually considered the power of intention to be like God, to be like a divinity, that when we set our intention, we are connecting with this divine energy, or what we would call the natural laws or the universal fluids, or right, our capacity to produce, when our intentions are focused. And a funny thing that he said, I loved, is he said, my intentions are to feel good. I'm here in this life to feel good. And he said, I'm so committed to feeling good that if you call my cell phone and you get my voicemail, it says, hi, this is Dr. Wayne Dyer, and I want to feel good. And if your message is not going to help me get there, hang up now and call Oprah. That was on his voicemail.
That's a funny one.
Right? That's pretty serious. So he says that there was 7 faces of the power of intention. So let's talk through these. So the first one is to be creative. So when we set your intention for something, is to be creative. How many times do we set an intention to do something? I can tell you how many times I've done it. I'm going to set an intention to change my diet, exercise more, meditate more, be more, I've set an intention to do everything on this list, right? And then I'm like, well, I don't really get any results. And then what happens? Give up. Or maybe, I let the intention kind of sit back in the back of my hair somewhere, but it's not anything I'm actually working towards. So the ability to be creative is to tap into the internal part of us that knows that what we are looking at right now is not all there is. The ability to be creative is to know that what we see is not all there is, and we can produce anything into existence that we want. Anything we can picture, we can create. Anything. Literally anything. For example, we can create, it's bad weather outside, we're doing something else, but I'm going to make sure that I get here. Like, we can create all sorts of things, right? We can create all sorts of things. But the most important thing is to not get stuck. The second one is to be kind. You know, this has got to be one of the hardest things in the world, is to be kind. Think about it. How many people today did you meet that were actively, intentionally kind to you? Is it because being kind is so hard? I mean, is it really the hardest thing in the world? What, you know,